Look, falling into a depression sometimes is inevitable, especially in this time of year, in the dog days of winter when the sun's going down earlier. There's a million things that can trigger us to fall into depression. And in this video, I want to talk about 5 tangible things that you can do to help uproot yourself out of it and to slip into some kind of routine that can get you realigned. Now, it's worth mentioning that usually when a depression comes on, it can be from exhaustion. Like Jim Carrey says, sometimes depression just means deep rest. And initially, I think it's a good thing for us to take time for ourselves. So usually when we fall into a depression, a good first thing to do is to just kind of self-care yourself through it a little bit. Don't feel shame or guilt to take time for yourself, especially if you're an introverted person. Like, sometimes everything can just be a little bit too much and you just need to chill at home for a while, and that's totally okay. But in this video, again, we're going to talk about 5 things where you want to start getting back into society. You want to start like doing things, and these are 5 things that really work for me, and I think that they will really work for you too. And each thing I find to be more and more helpful. So we're gonna start out small and then we're gonna grow into something bigger. And lastly, before we jump in, I want you to know that this will pass, okay? Depressions and cycles of depression, it will pass. So you have to be able to tell yourself that this is just something you're going through right now, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. You know, we don't need to give up all hope. This can pass, okay? Believe it and affirm it, even if you need to, that this is something that will pass. All right, the first thing you can do right now, boom, take a shower, man. You'd be surprised at how helpful a shower is. It's almost like a mini meditation. I find that sometimes I go into the shower one version of myself and I come out a different version of myself, depending on what thoughts I entertain when I'm in the shower. Honestly, a lot of ideas come in the shower, and even like symbolically, you're washing off the dirt. You know, you're going in a dirtier version of you and you're coming out a clean version, and you can throw on some fresh clothes and kind of just bring a fresh attitude to the day. It's not obviously a cure for depression, but again, we're starting out small here and we want this to snowball. So the first thing that I do if I'm trying to shake myself out of a depression is to just jump in the shower. Now, snowballing right off that energy, taking a walk, dude, even if it's around the block, keeping the momentum of getting dressed and putting on fresh clothes, like even just going outside and taking a walk, sometimes it's clearing. It really is something that just brings you into a new environment, especially if you've been in a deep rest state, you know, in your room for a couple days or whatever. Just take you, I know it's cold right now, I know, but even if you take it one step further and you can get into nature with it, you can start looking at some birds, you can see some trees, like it is so incredibly helpful. It's so much it's really helpful to me. And even if walk is maybe even not, you feel like, oh, that's not a big enough step, I need something bigger, bike ride. I know it's cold right now, but something that is great for me is getting myself into my park here, and sometimes it's a bike ride, sometimes it's a car ride. You know, just getting out into nature is so good for your brain. It really is. It's a magic pill, honestly, without taking a pill, obviously. But if it's too cold, you know, maybe it's snowing where you're at, whatever, replacing this is sort of like a meditation. Take yourself on an imaginary walk. I find that to be really, really helpful as well. You know, sitting down and putting some headphones on, even if it's just like binaural beats, you know, take yourself on an imaginary walk or a guided meditation. Your brain honestly sometimes doesn't know the difference between what's imaginary and what you're seeing in reality, and that's why the power of meditation is so great. All right, number 3, cook a meal, man. Maybe it's dinner time, around now or lunchtime, but invest in just cooking a meal. Like, really try to take your time with it. Don't just throw something in the microwave or put cereal in a bowl. Like, actually kind of look at the ingredients you got, and maybe you can cook something. Instead of a sandwich, maybe it's a quesadilla. You know, it's just something that turns the oven on or something like that. You know what I'm saying? I think taking your time to cook a meal, again, is just getting you into this routine. That's what we're developing, like a routine of caring about yourself. And even if you're cooking and maybe cooking is boring for you, you can throw on an album, throw on, you know, headphones, and maybe call a friend, call somebody. But like, we're trying to do things, you know, to get out of this funk. We have to try to do things. So this could honestly be number 2 if you want to cook yourself a little breakfast. I mean, I'm a breakfast guy, but my one meal, if I'm really cooking, is usually dinner. So that's why I kind of put this after the walk. But again, cook something. All right, number 4, write it down. This is something that is so helpful for me. Crack open a notebook and just start writing. It doesn't need to make sense. It can be poetry, it can be like journal style, but free form, and just write. Again, put on an album or something like that. I find that getting it out of my head, man, and just putting it on paper is such a powerful step, again, for me to shake this current state. You know, sometimes our bodies in depressions, sometimes our bodies are trying to tell us something and we're just not listening. So this is really giving the floor to your body. Like, what do you want me to know? What do you want me to see? What are you trying to articulate to me? And sometimes we just need to take out a pen, put it to a piece of paper, and let the body take over. And you'd be surprised sometimes what you come out with. I know this is also a really powerful exercise when you're coming up with lyrics. If you're a songwriter, just sit down and just write whatever comes to your head. You know, this is also something, when I was going through Kurt Cobain's journals, this was also something I kind of picked up from him, because it seemed like a lot of his lyrics were just coming out of left field. He's even said in interviews that, like, yeah, my lyrics don't really mean anything, but like, people put meaning to them and I just tell them, yeah, that's what it's about. But I think that was something that he probably did. He just put a pen to paper and just wrote whatever came to his head. So really powerful tool here is write it down. All right, number 5, listening to a podcast. This is something that is great if it's at the end of the day before bed or something. Empowering speakers, all right? I'm talking about people, Mel Robbins, Jay Shetty, Lewis, I forget what his last name is. Lewis Hughes, maybe? I forget what his name is, but you know what I'm talking about. Lewis on YouTube. Another great podcast, like these people that are empowering and they have empowering guests on. You know, I really love the more woo-woo people, you know, the Joe Dispenzas, Wayne Dyer, Eckhart Tolle. Like, these are people that give you this perspective on life that is realigning to your spirit. It's something that just you start to see the world in a different way. You start to take on a new perspective. And that to me is so powerful. And it's the most powerful thing about YouTube and about the internet in general, is the ability for us as humans to be able to share things like this that give each other different perspectives. And this is just something that is just so incredibly helpful and empowering for me. And it's also something, again, that can be meditative, especially before bed. I find that these people, you know, the way that they're talking and who they're talking to, it's so informative that sometimes it's just something that lulls you to sleep and it causes you to wake up the next day in a different mood. You know, people I've learned from, like Bob Proctor or Neville Goddard or Wayne Dyer, they talk about that time before you go to sleep being very powerful in what your subconscious mind is doing the next day. So if we're going to sleep in a state of mind where we're like, you know, we're disappointed in everything and we don't like ourselves, we can tend to wake up the next day with our subconscious mind putting these glasses on us that end up giving us images of things that we don't like, end up giving us images that reinforce that belief that we had. And this is what causes, I think, cycles of depression to go on a lot longer than they need to be, because we are just reinforcing the disappointment sometimes. And in order to shift gears, sometimes we need to turn it over to other people. And I find that people in podcasts can really help us realign our spirit and give us a new perspective on stuff. And just as a bonus to that, I think visualization is incredibly powerful. With manifesting and law of attraction, we talk about this idea of visualization. And it brings me back to, you guys remember seeing the Happy Gilmore movie? Whenever Happy Gilmore was not making his shots, this is like a golf movie, right? He was golfing, and whenever he would get upset, he would start underperforming. And his coach would come up to him and say, "Happy, I need you to go to your happy place." And he would just sit there and just start visualizing the greatest thing, the greatest place in the world, with his mom and his partner and his big new house, and just like all of these great things that he wanted for his life. And when he went into that visualization, it just calmed his body down. Like I said earlier, sometimes the body doesn't know the difference between our imagination and what we're seeing in reality. So we can really use that to our advantage with visualization, especially before bed. Again, that time right before we go to sleep is so powerful. So something that I've been doing a lot of is really laying down and visualizing my happy place. And this may seem like something that's easier said than done, but that's just my bonus tip here for getting going and moving in a different direction. I hope this video resonates with you, and although this video is for everybody, I'm really hoping to speak to more men, because it feels like depression is something that is often suffered in silence when it comes to men. So if you have a buddy that is going through a tough time, please share this video with them. It feels like the only thing, or one of the only things that guys tend to tell each other is to go to the gym. And obviously that could be something on the list, but that's not something I do. So I'm not gonna advocate for going to the gym if it's not something that I do. These are things that work for me and can work for you too, especially if you're an artistic person out there, or if you're a guy that's not a gym rat, So I really want guys to start taking this stuff and taking self-care a little bit more seriously, because it feels like there's this programming of white knuckling through life for us. And I'm really hoping to challenge that, and to challenge toxic masculinity that tends to develop from unhappy men. So I really hope this video resonates with you. If it does, definitely subscribe to the channel. This is the theme going right now for this month is depression. And if you haven't seen it already, the last video I did is why artists tend to be more depressed than other people. Okay, I break that down and talk about celebrities and things like that in this video. And also in this video, I talked about meditation. This is a meditation I did on connecting with your heart and opening your heart. I found that to be the most powerful thing when it comes to meditation, is to really put my awareness into my heart and try to open it up. And I realize when I do that, I end up becoming the best version of myself. So if it can work for me, it can probably work for you too. I will see you in those next videos. Stay creative.